Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's good?
Welcome back to Ministry Talks Podcast.
That's right.
Season 3.
This is episode 7.
The brag table.
Brag table.
And we've switched things up, as you can see.
That's right.
Hey, if you've not followed us or if you have not subscribed or liked, please make sure to do that. We want to personally thank all the supporters that are out there right now that are emailing us and just telling us how much they appreciate the content that's being pushed out. And honestly, for us, we enjoy doing this.
Absolutely.
This is what we've been doing for years, over coffee, over food, but to be able to bring content that we feel that is necessary and vital, not just for church leaders, but for anybody who's out there, whether you're a mother, whether you're a father, whether you're leading your home or whether you're leading your business, that is what this space is for. And one of our mantras that we say here is that we don't know everything, but we will walk with you through anything.
Exactly.
And so episode 7, Pastor West, why don't you go ahead and talk to us a little bit about what today's about?
Yeah, so episode 7, this is the brag table. So from time to time, we're going to have a guest, and what we really want to do is we want to brag on God, right? We want to brag on what he's doing in our life, what he has done, some of the prayers we've got going on. But in order to do that, I didn't want it to just be, Isaiah and myself.
Right.
So we have a guest with us today. This is my friend and also somebody who serves here at Hope Church Northwest. His name is Chris Caswell. So you guys make sure you give him some love in the comments and things like that.
Good morning.
Chris has been with me here at Hope Church for about 6 years or a little over 6 years.
Just over 6 years now.
And and when he came, dude, he was a diamond in the rough. A rough diamond in the rough.
Maybe. That's a better way to put it. Maybe a coal.
But the things that God has done in his life, even up to this point, currently Chris serves as our interim children's director.
Let's go.
When we do have kids, we're just being straight. We're being real here.
Let's go.
When we do have kids, we don't have kids every week, but when we do, Chris is ready. He's here to serve. So this is my brag on my friend and my ministry partner here. The man has a servant's heart. Yeah. He knows the word. He knows how to bring the word, and he's learning how to do it for kids, which is actually, that's a world in and of itself.
It's so different.
God bless you. God bless you. I work with teens.
I need that
youth.
blessing.
Yeah. I'd rather work with youth and teens. It takes a special kind of an anointing to work with
Somebody
kids.
at work recently asked me, why kids? And I said, well, I've always been drawn to kids, just naturally.
Okay.
It's been my whole life, literally since I was a kid.
Okay.
But B, kids and dogs. Pun intended.
Pun intended.
Kids and dogs are the only, I work with kids, I work with dogs, they don't talk smack back to me.
Exactly.
When the kids do, there's a way to work with that.
Exactly.
Polar opposite of ironworkers, it's been great.
Exactly. So what we're going to get is we're going to get a little bit of backstory from Chris, his stepping back into Jesus, and then because we don't have a lot of time, and then I want to ask you a few questions like, what is God teaching you in this season? What do you think you have learned? And then just brag on God. Like, tell us what he has done. So 6 years ago, Chris walked into the church with this just gigantic smile and this hunger and this zeal for God. And ever since then, he's just kind of been going and going and going. And so, but this is, this is my man, Chris. It's so great to have you here today, dude. Tell us what happened when you walked in. What did God do for you? How did he lead you?
Man, about 3 months before I came in here, I had ran into a Bible study, and I somehow just got called straight to it. So I started listening to it. And just a long story short, it really just started changing me up right away. I mean, I was at work, I had my mouth shut, and my mind was running. And I didn't know where it was going or really what was happening. And that ended up, one morning I'm on my way to work listening to the same Bible study, and I kind of just come to this moment where everything just kind of came crashing down on me, and I had this realization that basically I had screwed it all up. And I was worn out, I was tired, I didn't want to fight anymore, and that's all I'd been doing. So I just threw my hands up in the air and I told God, here I am, I can't do this anymore. I'm over it. I literally said, here I am, I can't do this anymore. I give up. I literally said those words out loud. I give up. Take me and do whatever you want with me. Yeah. And in that moment, something happened, and it was huge. Though I was largely unable to explain it at the time. Yeah. I was totally undone, and given a lot of understanding at the same time, which kind of spun my head. But then a couple weeks later, I heard kind of that same voice, the same voice that I heard on that day, as I'm on the bus on my way home from work. listening to the Bible study. I literally, and I mean, people say it's not audible, but this one was almost audible, and it was go to church. I mean, it was literally like that. I mean, I looked up, I looked around, I heard it again. So I started looking up for a church to go to. Eventually, by way of elimination online, I just kept coming back to what was then City View Church's website. Something about it, I was just drawn back to it.
Yeah.
And so I made the decision, pulled the plug, got up on a Sunday, and came in here on my own. I told Jen I was going to come and check it out before I wanted to bring her and the kids in. And I walked in, immediately running. I don't know if you remember this, but I opened the door, and there's nobody in the foyer except for Pastor West standing in the entrance to the worship center, and he's got the thing on his arm because his shoulder was messed up. He had just gone through the rotator cuff surgery, right?
Yes. I was trying to recover and preach at the same time. That was super hard.
So I walk in, and he's just sitting there with a smile on his face like he always is when you walk in here on Sunday, and he introduced himself. We started talking, and it must have been like 30 minutes went by like it was nothing. And then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, hey, it was good talking to you. Let's talk some more. But I got to go because I'm the pastor." And I was just mind blown at that time. I mean, that was.
I didn't tell him who I was.
That was it was a defining moment.
There you
it
go.
just was. It was a defining moment in my view of the church.
Yeah.
In my calling into this place, because it's more than clear now that I was called to this church specifically, to be in this ministry, to come under the mentorship of Pastor West and what he's got going on here.
That's what's up, man. I love that.
But I was mind blown because I'm like, I just walked into a church and had a normal conversation with a normal person who's a pastor. And in my mind at that time, those things didn't jive, right? Mm-hmm. Like pastors and normal people, there was kind of like this space between them. And I didn't look at them like they were people that were unrelatable or unreachable. It's just not on my level.
Got you.
And having that conversation with Pastor Wes, it's just so Jesus, right? To come and enter the scene and just kind of level things out and let you know that you are on this level, where you can be relatable to people who are Christians. I had a weird idea of Christians, especially the happy Christians. You know,
the
we'll
extra
hold that.
exuberant ones. We'll do that one for later.
I was just in such a screwed up place before God. I was running away from being a Christian. I've always had an inclination for God, and I've always had a bend for God. I've always known. Mm-hmm. It's never been a question, but I've always ran from it. From the part where you have to act on it and be a Christian and do good things and care for other people. And all that changed.
So in the past 6 years then, knowing then that you had a call to ministry, knowing that, you were going to, and then knowing that you were going to land here, there was a time that you guys disappeared for a hot minute. It was, to me, it felt like a day or two. But, because we stayed in constant communication. Mm-hmm. But for you guys, it was about a year and a half or so.
Yeah, and it felt like a year and a half.
I'm sure it did for you guys,
It did. It was a bit of a wilderness on our end. Yeah. Sitting here now, it feels like it was a day or two, like a blink in time. Mm-hmm. Like I took a trip and came back and was never. Mm-hmm. It was weird when I left too, because I knew that, I knew I was supposed to be here. I knew God had spoken things into my heart and mind and literally showed me things in vision and through people speaking words over me, prophesying over me. And then all of a sudden he's having us go somewhere else, and I didn't get it. I didn't want to do it.
Right.
But I also couldn't explain how I was going to get back here, but I knew we were going to get back here. It's so weird.
So when you guys were gone out in Idaho, right, because that's where some of your family is from, what did God do for you in that time? How did he grow you? What were some of the things that you, and I know the story, but, for our brag table, this is really bragging on God. What did he do for you while you were there, and how did he grow you, and give us a little what happened?
Well, I ended up serving in a church over there, which started out really well, and it didn't end so well for me. And bless them, I hope they're doing really good. I do love those people, but it just wasn't going to work out between me and them. Excuse me. It's kind of hard to explain, but first and foremost, I ended up starting Ministry of Helps, and then it kind of ended up where I felt like I was being kind of taken advantage of. Like nobody was coming to help. Nobody was volunteering when I would make requests for that. Those things weren't met. It was very much a lead, but you're literally left leading on your own, even when you're reaching out to leadership and stuff, not getting any answers, not getting any clear direction. But then also the other side of that, like when things don't go well or somebody has something to bring up, then they have no problem. The issues come up, right? So
Yeah.
it's your fault. Why did this happen? But at the same time, like before that, I had no leadership. God really showed me my heart for serving, first and foremost, I think, because it wasn't going well, but I kept serving through it anyways, and I knew that I was supposed to.
Right.
But it was hard at times.
Yeah.
And then it's hard to kind of tell the story without feeling like I'm talking bad about other people, and I don't want to do that. This is not the forum for that.
Right.
But Christianity is wide and diverse, and we're not always going to land with people who we click with.
Right.
And God showed me that this is where I belong. Like, this is where my ministry is. This is where I'm supposed to be. And also, he kind of showed me some things about myself too. Like, I could have easily gone off into like pride and the whole like, for lack of a better word, I call it pop Christianity.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys understand what that. I'm sure you guys can understand what that means.
I have an idea. Yeah.
I do too, but we'll talk offline about it.
Yeah, but I could have. Like I said, it's hard to talk about without sounding like I'm talking bad, but there's just a lot of hype in there without a lot of like anything to show for what they're saying is going on.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's no proof.
Claiming miracles, but things aren't really.
Right. Well, we've talked about that here at the podcast. You know, the proof is in the pudding.
Right.
Or you don't ever want to start a ministry to prop it up, or
Right.
you know, those kinds of things. And so
one of the things that Pastor West says, he just said it. We just had lunch this week too.
we did.
I don't know when this is going to air, but we just had lunch this week. So you always say, Isaiah, especially in leadership, if you're leading and nobody's following,
You're just
taking a long walk by yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that's really good.
when he says that, it always brings to me an evaluation for myself. How am I leading? Am I leading in a way that's worth following? Am I making the vision clear? Am I communicating clear? And
Right.
I just felt to just insert that really quick. I don't know the whole story. Like I said, we'll talk offline.
Yeah, that's very good.
But
that's the piece I was missing. I wasn't getting any of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
what about your family? You kind of tied some loose ends up with your family, and some restoration.
So that's the
there.
other. That's the other thing. That's the other really great part, and this is where God really shows up in this story, because it was a wilderness. It was a wilderness, but God always shows up, not only after the wilderness to say, "Hey, these were the lessons that you learned." By the way, even though it was hard at the time,
Right.
He actually shows up in the wilderness as well. We see it in the Bible, but. I went back over there. There was a big, huge disconnection in my family that had taken place. And it was 10, 12 years in the making where I hadn't really been home, hadn't been going around. I've stayed in communication with my mother, but that was about it. And man, going back there it just like kicked off this work. Just the fact that I was willing to go back and see some of the people, and God really reconciled my family. He really did. It's like the things that took place didn't disappear, but kind of the weight of them fell off, and it allowed us all to get back into communication, to get back into relationship.
Yeah, that's good.
To stop focusing on what had taken place and to kind of let that go and to move forward. And it's not. The really cool thing is it's not really fake. It's not something that we're putting on an appearance of, because before that time, there was really a lot of stuff there, and I really was unable to face that. Didn't want to go back there.
Right.
Had actually determined that we probably were done, When we first moved to Renton, way before I came into Hope Church, we actually went through what I considered at the time to be grief for my family. I mean, I moved over here. We walked away from all of them with no plan to go back there. And I have a pretty big family. My mom has brothers and sisters. I have cousins, grandparents, and so it's been rough. I mean, God gave me a new family when I came here.
Yeah.
But as far as like moving forward in ministry, how I got to this place where it's like, how do I move forward in ministry from where I'm at if that is still left unresolved?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Because
that's big.
Yeah, and for a lot of different reasons. Because I don't want to get into a ministry of pride. I want to get into a ministry of like redemption.
Yeah.
A ministry of life.
Yep.
And one that shows other people, shows other people who God is and not what he can do, what he will do if we relentlessly pursue him. Mm-hmm. Because when things get hard, it's easy to give up.
Yeah.
You know, it would have been easy for me to wash my hands in Idaho, stop going to church. But I firmly believe that I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So all the hard stuff we've gone through, that we stayed through, that we could have given up on, got us to where we're at today and where we're going. Right. And God continues to speak into our lives when we're in these circumstances where we think like this is hard, or like, you know, why is the one things hard for us that everybody else seems to just get? Mm-hmm. You know, we get into those situations. I think everybody has been there. Yeah. And it's not fun, and yet somehow God manages to come through on one of the worst days that we've had and speak something into our hearts and minds that's going to catapult our whole future. Right. I wouldn't have heard him say that if I wasn't staying in the church waiting for the apartment. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we get into these situations that are difficult and they're trial, but God's there, man. He's there he's not just kicking you to the wilderness and saying, see you when you get back and we'll talk about it. Right. He's literally walking with you into the wilderness. Yeah. Teaching you lessons while you're there, providing for you while you're there. That's good. That's good. And I guess to put a cap on the original question, I think that one thing I learned in the grand scheme of things is to just trust God, literally. Yeah. Like if he says, I need you to go to Idaho and you don't want to. Yeah, but at the end of that, whenever that is, what's going to come of that is going to be the best for me. I could have stayed here and made it work. Yeah. But I don't, again, it's just like all the puzzle pieces fit together perfectly. And if you take one out, who knows how it would be? Yeah. And who knows where it would end up.
There you go.
There you go. Good. So bragging on God then a little bit. So you're back here.
Yeah, we're back.
We've been working pretty closely together since you guys returned almost a year ago.
That's crazy.
I know. It's been almost a year. It's like 9 or 10 months.
See, that's crazy. It feels like 5 minutes ago.
I know. But and you guys have been just you and your wife, your family, have been crazy faithful, and that's something to brag on God about, because he doesn't just grab somebody and call them his, and then okay, now you're just normal or whatever. He really does call people for a purpose, on purpose, right? Right. And so to have you serving where you are and filling in where you are. And by the way, Chris kind of just jumps in everywhere. Like there's so much stuff that's needed, and Chris is like, I'm here. And so, but that, that's also what God does, is he gears your heart towards wanting to serve, right? And when you serve is when you grow. Hold on. When you serve is when you grow.
There you go.
That
because
there you go.
You can't grow in a vacuum. You can't grow isolated by yourself. No. The love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Right. Is all about. Let's see, where are we located in that phrase? The very end. Yep. So it's good. God, it's others, and then and then ourselves. Yeah. Does that mean don't take care of yourself? No, that's not what that means. That means make sure that you're in the right order. It's not you and then God and then others.
That's it.
I mean, that's hard, right? Like, yeah. So, but let's brag on God a little bit more. So, what is he teaching you now? You've been here almost a year. We talked about it a little bit earlier, and so. But what is he teaching you now as you're learning to teach kids and serve families?
Oh, it's really good too. The main word in the lesson I'm learning right now is tempo. Mm-hmm. Like I'm learning a lot about tempo, and I'm learning a lot about my lane, like where I belong in this and where my heart and my mind should be right now. Because it's easy for me to say, I want to go out and I want to preach big revivals, or I want to go speak in the big kids church, and I want to go get people saved. Those are things that every person who's called to evangelize or to speak and preach the word of God, right? Those are like, that's the show. That's where we all want to go, I think, or a lot of people anyways.
That's the side A that everybody craves.
No, it is, and it is, and for
They
me,
do. They
okay,
do.
so tempo, right? So I, by way of my life, I just ended up becoming this super, super high speed person, without even knowing it, honestly, until I became an adult recently. In the last several years, I've realized it, and I've started kind of trying to learn how to slow down. But I grew up playing soccer. It's a very high speed sport for 15 years. I joined the Marine Corps at a young age. When I got done with the Marine Corps after 4 years, I joined Washington DOC, and I worked in a medium maximum security prison. And volunteered to work in not just in the high security prison, but in the high security unit in the high security prison.
Right.
So like everything I've done, and Jen's always pointing this out to me, it's like I jump in and I want to be like, whatever the hardest part of this is, that's where I want to go. You know what I'm saying? And it's so natural. Yeah. And so now 12 years of ironwork has kind of beat the crap out of my body and my mind a little bit. Spiritually speaking, it's a very dark place for me to be.
Wow.
And so now I have a new job as a canine handler.
Okay.
And so I'm learning a lot about tempo, not just in ministry, but at work.
You just said something, though. I want to go back to it.
Yeah, go for it.
You said that you are learning now,
just now,
at the age that you're at,
43,
how to embrace the tempo or embrace where your mind is at. I want to say something. That's huge.
Right.
It really is.
Because sometimes I think we get into a rhythm. You call it tempo, I'll call it rhythm. Same thing. But we get into this space of a tempo where we think we know it. Or we feel
I'm
as
the
if
worst at
or
that.
we feel as if we've got it. But what you just said at 43 is I'm learning it now.
Yep.
I'm learning it now. I mean, come on, like let's really be honest for a second. I think some of us are still trying to learn things now. That's I want to brag. I want to help you brag on that you're even taking the moment and you're acknowledging, hey, this is who I am. This is where my mental capacity is at, and I'm learning it.
Yep.
Bro, that's huge.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it's true. And so I quit being an iron worker because it's super high speed, and I'm like, it's tearing me up in every part of my life. And here kind of put the cap on who I am. So then I go find a job as a canine handler, right? And it's a slow tempo job, but I'm out there looking for bombs.
Right.
Actively looking for bombs that could be in cargo. So that's still I've always just been this person that has to take it to the extreme. And I do it supernaturally. Like,
I'm gonna be a canine trainer. Let's go find bombs.
A couple seasons ago,
Wait,
Jen
that's what you're doing right now?
Yeah.
That's what I do now. Yeah.
You're looking for bombs?
Yeah, I go look for bombs every day at SeaTac in cargo warehouses with my dog. And if he sits on a package, then I handle it by hand into the X-ray. So it's like, it's crazy, dude. Side note. We also run the ETD. It's so if my dog can't search it, I can swab it for trace chemicals. So I'm sitting in there swabbing it one day like normal, ding, ding, ding. I put it in there, and the whole thing goes red and says explosive detected.
And
it's
you're like,
this whole sense of like reality sets in. Me and my partner look at each other.
Right.
Because now you got to open it with your hands and like look through it. And
you want to talk about change of tempo? That thing turns red, everything stops.
It really does.
You just pause.
Like the whole warehouse.
Where you are, the whole warehouse stops.
I'm still blown. My mind's blown right now.
We'll talk about that off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So I'm like, I'm going to get out of ironwork and do something that's easier on me. So I figured to go to Alabama for 8 weeks and train with a Homeland Security dog. And now I'm TSA certified bomb dog handler. So see, even when it's...
And in his spare time, he handles the children's ministry here at Hope Church.
My life...
Great mix.
My life as a Christian...
That's a great mix.
My life as a Christian is so weird.
I bet.
It's so weird. Like, iron worker... Yeah.
Oh, man.
I wonder what like every church's cameraman does for a living.
Right? Yeah.
Well, and in the end, it's like you don't want to know what your janitor does for fun.
Yeah, for real.
Sorry, janitors, I love you.
All right, well, we're getting close on time here. We're gonna have Chris finish up this thought, and then I got one more thing to say, and it's just for fun, and then we'll wrap this up. But yeah, go ahead and finish telling us then. So this tempo God's teaching you.
Yeah. So just hanging out in the church lately, I've been here enough to see and observe what goes on around me, and a lot of that is Pastor Wes. And so what I've noticed about Pastor Wes is everything he does is very intentional. And I like to do that too. But what I do, which he doesn't do, is I create these lists of things I know I need to do or want to do or should do or all of the above. And then all of a sudden I have this whole list in front of me. And if I can't knock it out right now, I just get overwhelmed really quickly. So I have the list and I want to get it done and I want to get it done immediately. And if I can't get it done right now, then feel like I'm stalled out. And then that stalls me out further. I end up not doing any of it. So I end up creating this work for myself that's so overwhelming that I don't do any of it, and then that's overwhelming in itself. So what I've learned here is just, that it's okay to be slow, that you don't have to sprint everywhere you go.
That's good.
I find myself in these moments where my mind is racing, my heart is racing, and I'm like I have this internal hurry, and then I stop myself, and I'm like, I ask myself, why are you in a hurry right now? And I look around, and there's no one around. No one's pressing me. Pastor West doesn't press me to get the things done that I know I have to do, which is graceful in itself, because that's not the world I come from. I come from the world where the person who you are directly reporting to is pushing you constantly to do more. You cannot do enough. You can't do it good enough. You can't work hard enough.
That's really good.
Yeah.
And over a decade, it takes a toll on you.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's what I'm learning. I'm learning to slow down, to get things done, to allow them the appropriate time. Planning kids' church isn't easy.
Right.
And so tempo in planning kids' church is huge.
Yeah.
Because I've learned to allow a little space of time to plan. That's and good. In that, it's getting a lot better because I'm hearing from God more. I'm not in a hurry, so I'm not giving if I give myself 10 minutes to sit down and plan for kids' church, come on.
Yeah.
That's just, I'm already crazy in my head about having to do it right now and get it done, let alone.
Yeah.
That's good.
So
That's
I hope
good.
I'm explaining it.
No, you are.
In a way that makes sense to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, well, I'm out of coffee, which means our show is just about over. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for being with us today for the Bragg Table.
Appreciate you sharing your heart.
Thank you, God, for people like Chris. I mean, I'd take 100 Chris's over a handful of others any day.
This story is going to radically change again soon.
I'm sure it is.
At the end of this thing, it's going to be weird.
It's going to be, it's going to be God, because he does things that we don't expect him. Sometimes we just get along for the ride. So
that's it.
So that's going to be great. All right. I got one thing. I don't know why I decided to do this, but I'm going to do this anyway. So I heard that the guy who invented the Hokey Pokey song died. And they were having a hard time planning a funeral because he wouldn't fit into the casket. Because every time they put his right foot in, he'd put his right foot out and his left foot. Okay.
I don't know.
I had to. I don't know why, but it was just floating around in my brain. I was like, I'm going to do it.
Stunned with silence. Where's it going with this? I thought we were about to do the Hokey Pokey.
No, man. Look, we love to have fun here.
Yeah, we
this
do.
This is our Bragg
When
Table.
you said died, I was like,
what?
Where are we going right now? I had no idea. I was not prepared, but I'm with you.
You good? You got it?
I mean, my left foot's in.
All right. Tell everybody, Isaiah, where they can reach us and what's going down.
Okay. If you have not, look, we're on Spotify, so please make sure you stay up to date on all the latest episodes. Go to YouTube, like, subscribe, email us questions. We are loving the questions that we're getting. You can email us at mintalkspodcast@gmail.com. And we've just had some people buy us coffee.
Yeah. buymeacoffee.com/mintalkspod. Thank you guys for the support that's out there.
Yeah.
It's been really great. It's been awesome to see.
And listen, this is Ministry Talk Season 3, Episode 7, but we've got another Bragg Table coming up, Episode 8. Make sure you stay tuned for that and all of everything following Season 4.
Hey, we love you guys. Thanks for being with us today.
All right.
Peace.